The bus screeched to a halt in front of the north terminal of Mexico City with a prolonged squeal. Among the crowd of passengers, Ethan Rivera stepped off unsteadily, his face covered in the reddish dust of his native Jalisco. His worn-out boots, stained with dried mud from the avocado fields he had worked all his life, contrasted sharply with the polished shoes of the city dwellers around him. In the pocket of his cotton work shirt, he carefully guarded the only legacy from his grandfather, Don Samuel, Hotita, a yellowed envelope containing the deed to a small plot of land on the outskirts of Tequila. He had traveled to the capital to settle some paperwork at the National Land Registry, planning to return the same day. But the vast, chaotic city had other plans for him. "Lost, country boy?" a woman in a terminal uniform asked with a mocking smile as her co-workers raised their phones to photograph the disoriented farmer, as they called him between laughs. Ethan adjusted his hat and pressed his lips together. It wasn't the first time his appearance had drawn ridicule, but in the capital, the feeling of not belonging intensified. "I'm looking for the National Land Registry Office," he replied in his slow, melodic accent. The laughter grew louder. "Typical Jalisco boy coming to fix papers for land that probably doesn't even exist anymore," someone muttered. Ethan ignored the comment and stepped out onto the main avenue, where the noise and smog hit him like a slap. At the diner where he tried to eat breakfast, the waiters served suited businessmen first, deliberately ignoring him. When they finally brought his order, the coffee was cold. At the agricultural supply store where he sought advice, the clerk looked at him with disdain. "You sure you can read the specifications, little Jalisco boy?" asked the salesman, a man with glasses and a smug attitude. "These products are for professional farmers, not small-time growers." By evening, exhausted and with his paperwork postponed due to a missing document, Ethan was walking back to the terminal to return home when a faded sign caught his attention. "Abandoned lot for urgent sale, East Side Agricultural Colony." Something about those faded letters spoke to him. He called the number, and an hour later, he stood in front of a vacant lot surrounded by grey buildings. The plot, though neglected, had potential: dark, fertile soil, an old storage shed that could be restored, and access to a busy avenue. "The previous owner went bankrupt," explained Mrs. Eleanor, the elderly neighbor who held the keys. "It was a parts warehouse, but they let it rot. No one wants to buy with all the competition from supermarkets around here." Ethan walked the perimeter with an expert eye. Where others saw trash and rubble, he saw possibilities. The shed could be turned into a tool storage space. The land was enough for urban farming. And the location, though noisy, guaranteed visibility. That night, he didn't return to Jalisco. He used part of the money he had saved to repair his land and put down a deposit on the lot. He bought an inflatable mattress and set it up in the shed. At dawn, as the city woke to honking and sirens, Ethan was already working. He started by cleaning. Week after week, he transformed the urban wasteland. He collected free compost from nearby markets, where vendors gave him scraps he turned into fertilizer. He planted the first lettuce, tomatoes, and cilantro, making use of every inch of the land. "You really think anyone's gonna buy veggies from a dirty Jalisco boy?" the owner of the corner grocery asked him one day. "People here prefer Walmart, country boy." Ethan didn't respond. He kept working from sunup to sundown, sleeping only when necessary. A month later, he set up a humble stand with his first harvest. No one stopped. The first person who gave him a chance was one Mrs. Eleanor Say, the retired teacher who lived next door and walked with difficulty due to her arthritis. "You remind me of my father," she said one afternoon as she inspected his tomatoes. "He was from Jalisco too, from Matotonilco. He had hands like yours, rough but gentle with plants." Ethan prepared a special basket for her every week and began delivering it personally. Soon, other neighbors noticed the quality of his produce. His hands, which knew the secret language of the earth, coaxed out flavors that supermarket vegetables had long lost. The turning point came when Valerie Ruiz, a local influencer promoting conscious consumption, passed by his stand and was Amazed by the transformation of the lot everyone had called the dump, she posted a video calling it the authentic Jalisco Boy's Garden. And within a week, a line of people waited every morning. Ethan wasn't prepared for such demand. He had no infrastructure, no helpers, not even a system for large orders. But he had something more valuable: the determination of someone underestimated his whole life who had finally found his place in the world. "You need to get organized, Jalisco boy," Valerie advised after seeing the endless line. "Your project has potential, but without a system, you'll collapse." With her help, Ethan created a WhatsApp group to manage orders and set pickup times. The system was simple but effective. Customers sent requests 2 days in advance. He prepared everything meticulously and assigned time slots to avoid crowding. What started as an improvised stand soon became Urban Roots, a name suggested by Mrs. Eleanor. The old shed was transformed into a functional space with shelves for tools and an area for washing and packing produce. With his first steady income, Ethan hired 2 helpers: Mr. Henry, a 62-year-old mason who had lost his job when the construction company deemed him too old, and Lucy, a 28-year-old single mother who needed work that fit her son's school schedule. "Never thought I'd work on a farm," Mr. Henry remarked as he installed a drip irrigation system using recycled materials. "But this reminds me of my hometown in Durango, where we grew everything ourselves." The community began embracing the project. On Sundays, Ethan held free workshops teaching neighbors how to grow food in small spaces. Kids came after school to learn about composting and help plant. Elderly residents found in the garden a place to socialize and share traditional knowledge they thought forgotten. "In my 40 years living here, I've never seen anything like this," confessed Mr. Raymond, a retiree who now spent afternoons on a bench by the garden chatting with neighbors. "We didn't even say hello before." The success of Urban Roots didn't go unnoticed. One day, a black luxury SUV parked in front of the lot. Out stepped Frederick Montgomery, a representative of Valley Supermarkets, the largest chain in the country. "Impressive what you've done, Rivera," Montgomery said, touring the garden with a calculating smile. "Our marketing department is interested in your story. We could buy your operation, keep you as the face, and expand the concept to other locations." The offer was tempting: a considerable sum for the land, a consulting contract, and the promise of bringing organic produce to the whole city. But Ethan noticed how Montgomery talked about concept and marketing without mentioning the community that had formed around the garden. "I appreciate it, but it's not for sale," he replied firmly. Montgomery insisted for weeks, increasing the offer each time. When Ethan held his ground, the strategy changed. Suddenly, health inspectors showed up alleging violations. Seed suppliers said they could no longer sell to him due to prior commitments. He even got anonymous calls suggesting he not be stubborn. "You're crazy, Jalisco boy," the grocery owner said when he heard about the rejected offer. "No one says no to Valley Supermarkets." The pressure mounted, but so did the support. When rumors of the threat spread, customers came in greater numbers as a show of solidarity. Valerie launched a social media campaign with "Shop Local" that went viral. One morning, Ethan was invited to speak at the Sustainable Urban Agriculture Fair, an event organized by the National University. Unaccustomed to public speaking, his authenticity moved the audience. "I'm not an engineer or an expert," he admitted, his Jalisco accent intact. "I just know what my grandfather taught me. The land always gives back what you give it honestly. In the city, I learned people respond the same way. They called me a dirty Jalisco boy, but now those same people value what these dirty hands grow." His speech was recorded and shared thousands of times. Academics studied his urban farming methods. Students asked to intern at Urban Roots. What began as an act of survival became an alternative business and community model. Then came the drought. The city announced water rationing, hitting working-class neighborhoods hardest. Many small businesses and community gardens risked disappearing. But Ethan had installed a rainwater harvesting system from the start. inspired by traditional techniques from his region. Large barrels collected every drop during the wet season, storing it for dry months. This, combined with efficient irrigation, kept his garden thriving while others closed. "I can't keep all this water while my neighbors suffer," Ethan decided, opening urban routes to share the resource. Twice a week, families could fill their jugs. In return, many volunteered their time. This act turned Ethan from a simple vendor into a community leader. When city officials visited to study his rainwater system, they proposed making urban routes an official environmental education center. "The city would provide resources and you'd share your knowledge," explained the official. "It would be a model for other neighborhoods." Ethan hesitated, fearing political interference. That night, he sought Mrs. Eleanor's advice. "When I moved here 50 years ago, this was all farmland," she recalled, serving mint tea grown in the garden. "Progress buried it under concrete. If you can bring some of that spirit back, do it, but on your terms." Following her advice, Ethan accepted the city's proposal, but set clear conditions. He'd keep control over garden decisions, workshops would stay free for locals, and any expansion had to follow sustainable farming and fair economy principles. The agreement was signed at a simple ceremony. While officials posed for cameras, Ethan stayed in the background, uneasy with the spotlight, but satisfied with the outcome. Urban Roots would now be a community learning center without losing its soul. The irony came when Bancorp, which had once denied him a microloan for being high risk, now offered special financing. "We want to support green ventures like yours, Mr. Rivera," said the banker, with the same plastic smile Ethan remembered from his rejection. "I prefer growing at my own pace, debt-free," he replied, recalling his grandfather's most valuable lesson. "The land doesn't rush, but it always delivers." The answer surprised the banker, used to entrepreneurs jumping at funding. He didn't understand that for Ethan, true wealth lay in independence. The agricultural supply store that once questioned if he could read technical specs now sought a partnership to supply the garden. Ethan agreed, on one condition: they had to create a fair pricing program for small urban farmers. "That's not profitable," argued the manager. "It's sustainable long-term," Ethan countered, "and you need this alliance more than I do." The seventh transformation in Ethan's life came with a visit from a group of young agronomy students from Jalisco, who had seen his videos and wanted to learn directly from him. Among them was Clara Itzel, a determined young woman with bright eyes and strong hands, granddaughter of Purepecha Chirofat farmers. "At university, they teach modern techniques, but you apply ancestral wisdom in an urban context," Clara observed, while transplanting poblano chili seedlings. "You're the bridge between two worlds." Something in Clara's determination reminded Ethan of his own journey. For weeks, she worked in the garden, bringing technical knowledge that complemented Ethan's intuition. A special connection grew between them, nurtured by their shared passion for the land. "You should stay," he proposed one evening as they closed up. "We need your knowledge here." "Are you hiring?" she asked with a smile. "I'm proposing a partnership," Ethan replied, surprising himself. "You have the theory, I have the practice. Together, we could expand this model to other neighborhoods." Clara accepted the challenge. Together, they designed a sustainable expansion plan that would keep urban rootskin community spirit while replicating it in other abandoned lots across marginalized neighborhoods. The news of their collaboration reached Telemax, where a producer saw potential for a feature story. The Jalisco Boy Who Changed the City's Relationship with the Land aired in prime time. Suddenly, Ethan became the face of a movement questioning the dehumanized pace of urban life. Requests to work at Urban Roots cutsies multiplied. Lawyers wanting to leave their firms, executives seeking purpose, disillusioned young professionals. Most wanted a quick escape from urban emptiness, but few understood the commitment the land demanded. "We don't hire out of desperation, but conviction," Ethan explained in interviews. "Here we grow at the pace of plants, steady but patient." The pinnacle came at Urban Roots. First anniversary as a community center, an agroecological fair brought together growers, chefs, artisans, and neighbors, celebrating the neighborhood's new identity. The old shed, now a living classroom, was officially named on the Eleanor Lopez Room, honoring the retired teacher who had been the first to believe in the project. Without people like Mrs. Eleanor, who saw me as human when others saw just a dirty Jalisco boy, none of this would exist, Ethan said, voice trembling. She taught me the real harvest isn't the vegetables, but the community that grows around them. Mrs. Eleanor, leaning on her cane with tearful eyes, hugged the man she now considered the son she never had. You gave us back something we'd lost in this neighborhood, pride in our roots. What began as a growing space had become the neighborhood's heart, with vertical gardens, community composting, a native seed library, a traditional Mexican kitchen, and the famous Storytime evenings, where elders shared nearly forgotten legends with children. The city's top architecture firm offered to design the center's expansion for free. Foreign universities requested study visits. Officials from other Latin American cities sought advice. Yet every dawn, true to his roots, Ethan still rose before sunrise to feel the earth between his fingers and thank each plant for its fruit. He still drank coffee from the same enamel mug he'd arrived with, and his Jalisco accent remained intact, now a symbol of authenticity, not mockery. One afternoon, as Ethan and Clara planned the next planting season, the grocery owner who had predicted his failure walked in. I came to apologize, he said awkwardly, and to ask if I could sell some of your produce in my store. Ethan smiled without resentment. Of course, neighbor, there's room for everyone here. That simple gesture summed up his philosophy. True triumph wasn't in humiliating those who had belittled him, but turning scorn into mutual respect, not with speeches, but with relentless work, unshakable ethics, and deep roots. And the one who had once seen him as an outsider now called him our Ethan. The bond between Clara and Ethan flourished as richly as the garden. Their professional synergy grew into a deeper connection, rooted in shared values. In her he found not just a brilliant partner, but a companion who understood his visceral bond with the land. In him, she saw the embodiment of ancestral wisdom she'd only studied theoretically. When Ethan finally returned to his hometown in Jalisco to visit his grandfather's grave, he didn't go alone. He brought Clara and Mrs. Eleanor, uniting his two worlds. Standing on the red earth where his dreams began, he vowed that urban roots was just the start of a quiet revolution, reconnecting the city with its most vital essence, the memory of the land pulsing beneath the asphalt, patiently, waiting to be rediscovered by hands that still remember its language.